A routine traffic stop in downtown Chicago turns into a nightmare when Officer Derek Matthews violently slams a black woman against a precinct wall, hurling accusations of impersonating a federal agent. But when his phone rings and the voice on the other end addresses her as boss, his world crumbles. This isn't just any woman. She's someone so powerful that even the FBI director answers to her. What happens next will leave you speechless. This is a story about abuse of power, hidden identities, and a moment of justice that nobody saw coming. It's a cold Tuesday morning in downtown Chicago. The streets are bustling with the usual rush hour traffic. People hurrying to work, steam rising from the subway grates, and the city alive with its characteristic energy. Officer Derek Matthews, 43 years old, sits in his patrol car on Michigan Avenue, sipping his coffee and watching the flow of vehicles pass by. Derek is a 15-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department. He comes from a family of cops. His father served for 30 years before retiring with full honors. His uncle is a deputy chief. Derek grew up believing that the badge meant something, that it gave him authority, respect, power. Over the years, that belief has morphed into something darker, something entitled. At 8:47 in the morning, a black Mercedes with tinted windows rolls through a yellow light that's just turning red. It's a minor violation, barely worth noting. But Derek notices. He notices the expensive car, the out-of-state plates, the dark tinted windows that obscure the driver. Something about it bothers him. Maybe it's the neighborhood, maybe it's his instincts, or maybe it's something else entirely. He flips on his lights and pulls the Mercedes over. The car comes to a smooth stop along the curb. Derek approaches the driver's side window, his hand resting casually on his service weapon. The window rolls down, and he finds himself looking at a black woman in her early 40s. She's wearing a tailored navy blue suit, pearl earrings, and her hair is pulled back in a professional bun. She looks composed, calm, almost unnervingly so. Derek asks for her license and registration. The woman reaches into her purse with slow, deliberate movements and hands him her credentials. But these aren't ordinary credentials. It's a federal identification card. Deputy Director Victoria Hayes, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Derek stares at the ID for a long moment. Then he looks back at the woman. Then back at the ID. His expression shifts from curiosity to suspicion to something that looks almost like contempt. He doesn't believe her. In Derek's mind, the pieces don't fit. A black woman driving an expensive car, claiming to be a high-ranking federal official? It seems too convenient, too unlikely. He's seen fake IDs before. He's dealt with people trying to talk their way out of tickets with elaborate stories. This, he decides, is one of those situations. He tells Victoria to step out of the vehicle. His tone is sharp, authoritative, leaving no room for discussion. Victoria remains calm. She asks why she's being asked to exit the vehicle for a minor traffic violation. Derek's jaw tightens. He doesn't like being questioned. He doesn't like her tone. He repeats his command, louder this time. Victoria complies, but slowly. She steps out of the Mercedes, her movements measured and controlled. She's 5'7", slender, and carries herself with the kind of confidence that comes from years of operating in rooms where she's the only woman, the only person of color, and still the most powerful person present. Derek tells her to turn around and place her hands on the vehicle. Victoria refuses. She tells him calmly that she's a federal official, that she's done nothing wrong, and that this stop is unnecessary. Derek's face flushes red. In his 15 years on the force, he's grown accustomed to compliance, to fear, to people doing exactly what he says without question. Victoria's refusal feels like a challenge, and Derek doesn't back down from challenges. In one swift motion, he grabs Victoria by the arm, spins her around, and slams her against the wall of a nearby building. The impact is hard enough that several pedestrians stop and stare. Someone pulls out their phone and starts recording. Victoria's face presses against the cold brick, but she doesn't cry out. She doesn't resist. She simply says, in a voice so calm it's almost eerie, "You'll regret this." Derek doesn't hear the warning. Or maybe he does, and he just doesn't care. He cuffs her hands behind her back, confiscates her phone, her credentials, and her briefcase. He radios for backup. telling dispatch that he's apprehended a suspect for impersonating a federal officer. Within minutes, another patrol car arrives, and Derek parades Victoria toward the precinct building just 2 blocks away. As they walk, Victoria says nothing. She doesn't plead. She doesn't argue. She simply observes. She watches Derek's body language, the way he grips her arm just a little too tightly, the way he nods to his fellow officers with a smug satisfaction. She's seen men like Derek before, men who mistake authority for righteousness, men who believe the badge gives them the right to judge, to punish, to control. But Victoria knows something Derek doesn't. She knows exactly who she is, and she knows that this moment, this mistake, will cost him everything. Inside the precinct, the atmosphere is typical for a Tuesday morning. Officers are filing reports, phones are ringing, and the smell of stale coffee permeates the air. When Derek walks in with Victoria in handcuffs, heads turn, whispers start immediately. Derek is practically glowing with pride. He announces loudly to anyone within earshot that he's just caught someone impersonating a federal agent. He holds up Victoria's credentials like a trophy, waving them around and making jokes about how elaborate the fake ID looks. Some officers laugh. Others exchange uncomfortable glances. Derek's partner, Officer Maria Santos, is one of those who doesn't laugh. Maria is 36 years old, a 12-year veteran of the force, and a single mother of 2. She's worked with Derek for 3 years, and in that time, she's seen sides of him that make her deeply uncomfortable. She's watched him escalate situations that didn't need to escalate. She's seen him use force when words would have sufficed, and she's noticed a pattern. The people on the receiving end of Derek's aggression are almost always Black or Latino. Maria has reported Derek's behavior before. She's filed complaints with their sergeant, documented incidents, tried to follow the proper channels. But nothing ever happens. Derek's father is a legend in the department. His uncle is a deputy chief. Derek is protected by a network of loyalty and old-school mentality that values brotherhood over accountability. But as Maria watches Derek shove Victoria into an interrogation room, something feels different this time. The woman's composure is unsettling. She's not scared. She's not angry. She's just waiting. Like she knows something they don't. Derek sits down at a computer terminal and runs Victoria's information through the system. He types in her name, her date of birth, her social security number from the ID. The system takes a moment to load. When the results come back, Derek frowns. No criminal record, no warrants, no red flags. But her federal credentials appear to be legitimate, at least according to the basic verification system. Derek dismisses it. He's convinced the ID is sophisticated enough to fool the initial checks. He decides to call the FBI field office in Chicago to verify. But it's early, and the office doesn't open for another hour, so he waits. And while he waits, he makes Victoria wait too. In the interrogation room, Victoria sits with her hands still cuffed behind her back. The room is small, windowless, with a metal table and 2 chairs. A camera in the corner records everything. Victoria stares directly at the camera, her expression neutral. She knows that footage will matter later. An hour passes, then another. Derek finally gets through to someone at the FBI field office. He explains the situation, gives them Victoria's information, and asks them to verify her credentials. The person on the other end puts him on hold. Derek waits, drumming his fingers on the desk, confident that any moment now, he'll get confirmation that the ID is fake. But the person who comes back on the line doesn't sound like a low-level clerk. The voice is tense, almost panicked. They ask Derek to repeat the name. He does. There's a long pause. Then the voice tells Derek to hold the line, that they're transferring him to someone higher up. Derek's confidence wavers slightly. Maria, who's been hovering nearby, leans in and whispers that maybe they should let the woman go, that something doesn't feel right. Derek waves her off. He's too deep into this now. He can't back down. His ego won't allow it. The hold music plays for what feels like an eternity. Other officers in the precinct are starting to pay attention. Word has spread that Derek might have actually arrested someone important. Some are curious, others are worried. The precinct captain, a gruff man in his late 50s named Captain Robert Donnelly, He emerges from his office and asks Derek what the hell is going on. Derek explains, still confident, still certain he's right. Captain Donnelly's expression darkens. He tells Derek that if this woman is actually a federal agent, they're going to have a serious problem. Derek insists she's not. He insists the ID is fake. But there's a tremor in his voice now, a crack in his certainty. And then Derek's personal cell phone rings. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been so sure you were right about something, only to have that certainty shattered in an instant? Have you ever made a decision based on assumptions, on prejudice, on ego, and then realized too late that you were completely wrong? Think about Derek in this moment. He's about to receive a phone call that will change his life forever. What do you think happens next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Derek deserves what's coming to him, or has he just made an honest mistake? Let me know what you think. Derek stares at his phone. The number is unfamiliar, a Washington, D.C. area code. He's not supposed to answer personal calls while on duty, but something compels him to pick up. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's fate. He swipes to answer and brings the phone to his ear. The voice on the other end is cold, clipped, and carries the weight of absolute authority. It's a voice that's used to being obeyed without question. Officer Derek Matthews? Derek's throat goes dry. Yes, this is Officer Matthews. This is FBI Director James Morrison. I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer me honestly. Do you have any idea who you're holding in that interrogation room? The precinct seems to tilt around Derek. FBI Director James Morrison, the head of the entire Federal Bureau of Investigation, calling him. Personally. Derek's hand starts to shake. I arrested someone for impersonating a federal agent, sir. She had credentials that... Director Morrison cuts him off. His voice is ice. Officer Matthews, that woman is not impersonating anyone. That is Deputy Director Victoria Hayes. She is the Deputy Director of National Intelligence. She oversees every intelligence agency in this country, including mine. She reports directly to the President of the United States. And you just assaulted her and threw her in a cell like a common criminal. The phone nearly slips from Derek's hand. The color drains from his face so quickly that Maria actually takes a step toward him, thinking he might collapse. Around the precinct, officers have stopped what they're doing. They can't hear the conversation, but they can see Derek's reaction, and it's not good. Director Morrison continues, and every word is a nail in Derek's coffin. Deputy Director Hayes was in Chicago for a classified national security meeting. She was traveling with minimal security to avoid drawing attention. And now, thanks to your actions, there are videos of her assault circulating online. Videos of a Chicago police officer slamming one of the highest-ranking intelligence officials in the country against a wall. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done? Derek can't speak. His mouth opens, but no words come out. I suggest you release Deputy Director Hayes immediately. I suggest you apologize profusely. And then I suggest you start praying that she doesn't decide to end your career in the next 5 minutes. Because if she wanted to, Officer Matthews, she could make you disappear from law enforcement so completely that you'd never even get a job as a mall security guard. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. Derek manages to whisper. The line goes dead. Derek stands frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. Around him, the precinct has gone completely silent. Captain Donnelly stares at him, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. Maria has her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Derek's mind races through the last 3 hours. Every decision he made, every assumption, every moment of ego and prejudice that led him to this point. He sees it all clearly now, and the realization is devastating. He didn't arrest a criminal. He assaulted one of the most powerful people in the United States government. Captain Donnelly's voice breaks the silence, low and dangerous. Get her out of that room, now. Derek moves on autopilot. His legs feel like lead as he walks to the interrogation room. His hands fumble with the keys. When he opens the door, Victoria is sitting exactly as she was before, calm and composed, as if she's been waiting for this exact moment. Derek's voice cracks as he speaks. Ma'am, there's been a mistake. I need to remove your handcuffs. Victoria stands slowly and turns around, presenting her cuffed hands. Derek's fingers tremble as he unlocks them. The cuffs fall away, and Victoria rubs her wrists slowly, her eyes never leaving Derek's face. A mistake, she repeats softly. Is that what you're calling it? Derek can't meet her gaze. Captain Donnelly appears in the doorway, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Deputy Director Hayes, on behalf of the Chicago Police Department, I offer our sincerest apologies. This is completely unacceptable, and I assure you there will be consequences. Victoria nods slowly. She collects her phone, her credentials, and her briefcase from the evidence bag that Derek hastily retrieved. She checks her phone and sees dozens of missed calls from Washington. The national security meeting she was supposed to attend started an hour ago. She looks around the precinct, at the officers who are all staring at her now with a mixture of shock, fear, and shame. Then she looks back at Derek. I'd like to speak with Officer Matthews, privately. Captain Donnelly starts to protest, but Victoria raises a hand. It's not a request, Captain. Thank you so much for staying with this story so far. I know it's intense and I truly appreciate you being here. Trust me when I say, the best is yet to come. What happens in that private conversation will shock you. Stay with me. Victoria and Derek sit across from each other in a small office. The door is closed, but through the window, dozens of eyes watch them. The entire precinct is on edge, waiting to see what happens next. Derek sits with his shoulders hunched, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He looks like a man who's just watched his entire life collapse in real time. Victoria, by contrast, sits upright, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The silence is suffocating. Finally, Victoria breaks it. Do you know why I asked to speak with you privately, Officer Matthews? Derek shakes his head, still unable to meet her eyes. Because I want you to understand something. I want you to understand exactly what happened here today and why it matters. She leans forward slightly, her voice steady and measured. When you pulled me over this morning, what did you see? Derek's jaw works, but no words come out. I'll tell you what you saw, Victoria continues. You saw a black woman in an expensive car. And in your mind, that didn't compute. In your mind, someone who looks like me doesn't belong in a car like that. Doesn't belong in a position of power, doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. So when I showed you my credentials, you didn't believe them. Not because they looked fake, but because you couldn't imagine them being real. Derek's face burns with shame, but he still can't deny it. Because she's right. That's exactly what happened. Victoria sits back in her chair. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, Officer Matthews. My mother cleaned offices at night to put food on our table. I was stopped by police 17 times before I turned 21. 17 times. I was never committing a crime. I was just existing in spaces where people like you decided I didn't belong. She pauses, letting that sink in. I worked my way through college. I went to law school. I joined the intelligence community and spent 20 years proving myself over and over again. I've briefed presidents. I've made decisions that have saved thousands of lives. I've earned every single thing I have. And this morning, you slammed me against a wall because you looked at my skin and decided I was lying. Derek finally looks up, and there are tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispers. I'm so sorry. Victoria's expression doesn't soften. Your apology means nothing to me, Officer Matthews, because this isn't about you and me. This is about every person who looks like me who doesn't have my position, my power, my connections. What happens to them when you make these same assumptions? What happens to the single mother who gets pulled over on her way to work? What happens to the teenager who's walking home from school? They don't have the FBI director's phone number. They can't make one call and have their lives restored. They just have to live with the trauma of being treated like criminals for existing. Derek's tears fall freely now, but Victoria isn't finished. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to press charges against you. I haven't decided whether I'm going to sue you personally, or the department, or the city, but I am going to do something. I'm going to make sure that what happened to me today never happens to anyone else. And that starts with understanding exactly who you are, Officer Matthews. Not just what you did today, but who you've been throughout your entire career. She stands, smoothing her suit jacket. My team will be conducting a full investigation into your record, every arrest you've made, every complaint filed against you, every use of force incident, all of it. And when we're done, I'll make my decision about your future. Victoria walks to the door, then pauses and looks back. You should have believed me, Officer Matthews. Not because of who I am, but because I gave you no reason not to. She opens the door and walks out, leaving Derek alone with the weight of his actions. Outside, the precinct erupts into controlled chaos. Captain Donnelly is on the phone with the mayor. The department's legal team is being called in. Public Affairs is preparing a statement. And on social media, the videos of Victoria's arrest are going viral. The footage is damning. It shows Derek pulling Victoria over for a minor traffic violation. It shows him refusing to believe her credentials. It shows him grabbing her and slamming.